On this episode, we talk about Seth Rollins being an equal to Lesnar and Cena, Dean Ambrose being a little cartoony, Randy Savage in the WWE Hall of Fame, and more now on Byte That. Hello everybody, welcome, and you are listening to episode 73 of Byte That, the somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is the world of wrestling entertainment. Thanks for tuning in, for checking out the show. Remember, we are available every single Tuesday night on iTunes, on Stitcher, on TuneIn Radio, YouTube, all that good stuff. My name is Juan. I'm back. I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'm married, so a lot of big changes here. And of course, I'm joined by Mr. Ryan, the Rhino McNulty, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts.
Juan, it is so good to have you back. I wish our fellow co-host was here too, but
yeah.
yes, it is good to have you back. I can't quite fill your shoes as host. I do the best I can, but you are the true host of the show, so happy to have you back.
And I'm happy to be back, man. I missed the podcast. The first couple of days in the honeymoon, I would just make no reference. I made a promise to not talk about the podcast or Byte That. But come day 3 or 4, there'd be these can I check Twitter for a second? Just I gotta send this tweet and all that good stuff. But so it's awesome to be here, and it seems like it's a pretty good time to be back. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. We are on the road to the Royal Rumble. And what do you say we talk about Monday Night Raw, sir?
That sounds good to me.
First off, we got to talk about something a little bit unexpected, which was Brock Lesnar being on Raw. I didn't know, because last week I only watched the clips on YouTube, so that's sort of my background to this week's Raw. And then he comes out, there's all these segments involving Seth Rollins and all that good stuff, and I was just surprised to see how involved Brock Lesnar has actually been, because, we talk about Brock Lesnar basically disappearing, and now here he is not just being in segments by himself, but really doing a good job of just, being integrated into the product. So can I get your feedback about that? Or are you surprised by that? How do you feel about Brock being involved the way he is?
Yeah, first of all, it was nice to see him on Raw. I'm not sure if he might have been advertised and I just wasn't aware of it, but either way, it was a surprise to me. And I think this probably was the most involved that Lesnar has been with a Raw in a very long time, maybe since 2012 or something like that. He actually had multiple segments on the show. And it was really nice. Obviously, anytime Lesnar shows up, it's like you kind of have to make up for lost time and try and put, some, a speed boost on a feud that's going on. So I think they did a good job of, developing this feud with, this triple threat feud now. Cause there hadn't been, there'd been a little bit of interaction there with Rollins and, Lesnar way back at Night of Champions, I think.
Yeah, with the curb stomp and everything.
And then you've got, Heyman and Rollins involved too. So it was nice to actually get some more interaction with Rollins and Lesnar. So they did a good job of kind of making up for lost time and making this feud really feel important and like a actual triangle feud and not just 2 versus 1 or something like that.
And how weird is that? Because not only are triple threat feuds basically non-existent in the WWE right now, but we have it with Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and just crazy. We got Seth Rollins that we'll talk about a little bit more, but it's nice that it feels like it's a triple threat feud, because at first it very much felt like it's Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and then the guy that's probably going to get pinned. But now, honestly, for me, it feels like, it could go any of the 3 ways.
I agree, and the fact that you have some elements there with, like I said earlier, Rollins attacking Lesnar, so there's pieces, all the pieces are kind of coming together. The fact that Rollins has the money in the bank, there's a lot of interesting elements for this match. So, even if Rollins does get pinned, that doesn't necessarily mean it's over. So it's the most intriguing, title match we've had in a while.
Yeah, and what a combination that it's paired up with the Royal Rumble. So, we're definitely going to have our prediction show. And I think that this is the prediction show we're going to have because we have the Rumble coming up. And then this match, seriously, I think people are underestimating Rollins' chance here. And that's, what, I'm going to leave that for the predictions game. So I want to actually, before we go on to this Shield extravaganza, TMC broke out a story that Randy Orton, that Macho Man Randy Savage was finally going to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, this is obviously a very weird and unique way to go about it because usually they just announce it during Raw. And then when Raw kicks off, they say that he's expected to be inducted. But I'm like, what does that mean? TMC revealed that you basically confirmed it. So now you're unconfirming, but yet you're still confirming it. What's going on, man?
It was probably the weirdest way they've ever gone about a Hall of Fame induction. They're not going to send a text like, oh, I almost said Randy Orton too. Randy Savage, rumored to be put in the Hall of Fame, and then what? WWE's going to put out a rumor, and then it just doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Or they're going to have all these segments during Raw like, oh, we're expected to announce him. But the thing is, Michael Cole telling you he's expected to be announced was no different than when he actually just announced that he was in.
Yeah.
It's not like they had someone come out to the ring, like his, a family member or something. It was just Michael Cole was like, yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame now. Somehow the segment we rolled in hour 1 is different than the one we're rolling in hour 2 or hour 3 or whenever they did it. And it was just very strange. It's like, I know they were trying to hype it up. You were just hyping up the most obvious, inevitable thing ever. But, I mean, I actually kind of want to throw this to you is, did Stone Cold's podcast have anything to do with this? Did this put public pressure on Vince more than before?
I definitely think Stone Cold and all that stuff has changed things because... as a quick note, I don't think it's the reason why he's being inducted now. I definitely think it's why he was announced the way he was. Because Vince McMahon basically confirmed it by not really wanting to reference it too much in Stone Cold's podcast, which I would love for them to really do that more on the network. But in the podcast era, now where... there is this much pull when you got guys like Jericho, Stone Cold doing all that stuff that I guess WWE maybe felt the pressure that, let's team up with TMZ, break out the story. Everybody was covering it. I mean, Slim Jim, they changed their profile picture on Twitter. They created their own graphic because it's Macho Man. I mean, this is the equivalent of like when Hulk Hogan, that type of stuff. It is that magnitude. It's one of the few guys left that, even though, it wasn't really our era, it's one of those guys that everybody just knows. Maybe they've never even seen him wrestle, but, you saw him maybe, early WCW. You saw him in his WWF career. You saw him in the later years, maybe even in TNA. I mean, who knows? He was in a lot of places, but Macho Man is officially being inducted, and it kind of sucks as a fan because I remember thinking that if there was anybody that I would always love to hear their speech, it was Macho Man because, everybody joked, is Macho Man always in character? Is he a character? Is that just him? And now we're really never going to get to just, hear him talk, like just 30 minutes, whatever time. And as a fan, it's really sad to know that.
No, absolutely. It's always sad when, you don't get to, get the actual speech from someone, especially when he was around for so many years that the Hall of Fame was intact and everything, and they had their opportunities. Nobody really knows what went down between Vince McMahon and Randy Savage, why.
Only Stone Cold stare in that podcast.
Yes. We'll never really know what the difference is and how Stephanie McMahon was involved, if she was at all, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, let's please not get into that.
Better late than never is pretty much the best way you can put it. They say Hulk Hogan, I heard, was going to induct him. Yeah, Hulk Hogan
is going to induct him. And how fitting, because if you guys have not listened to it, listen to last week's Talk is Jericho combo, because he has Hulk Hogan in both his weekly episodes, and it's awesome. And he talks about Macho Man, so it's what better combination than to really hear the Hulkster talk about Macho Man. We hear he's about to be inducted, and then we find out Hulk Hogan is indeed going to be the person to induct him.
Did they ever make amends? I know there was some heat between them. There was even a rap that Randy Savage made. It was like a rap diss to Hogan.
I don't know. I've always wondered about all that stuff because, once again, that's why I wanted to hear Macho Man, because you heard all these things that went on backstage, and everybody loved the character. I mean, his promos, all that stuff, but we never really just got it from him. We always heard people talk about Macho Man. You never really heard him talk about himself, and once again, we're never getting that. So it's a shame.
And it's like we're used to, after 2 consecutive years of people who had falling outs with WWE and coming back, and sort of, building the bridge again that was burnt. We don't get that this year, and it feels like Macho Man was supposed to be that guy, because we got Bruno Sammartino 2 years ago, the Ultimate Warrior last year, and then this year it's sort of the best you can do to kind of repair that rift that was there.
Yeah, and once again, it's really sad, for those listening. Are you pumped for the Hall of Fame regardless? Because I know it's bittersweet because, Macho Man's being in it. Hulk Hogan is probably one of the best people to induct him because of all that stuff. I mean, maybe we'll hear a little bit about their falling out from Hogan's part, and hopefully we get to hear the part where they made up at some point during their lives. So, awesome. Looking forward to the Hall of Fame. WrestleMania is slowly looking like a big show, because we got to talk about the Shield extravaganza part of our podcast, because enough things happened that, I mean, we got to talk about all 3 guys. How crazy is it that, Ryan, did you know that it was in June when the Shield split happened? In June, man.
Yeah, I mean, time flies.
Yeah, I was looking at that today because it still feels like it's like a personal thing, like your brother split up or something like that. And we gotta talk about this Roman Reigns situation, because it seems like out of the 3, people are really being nitpicky on Roman. And to a lot of points, I will give people, he does sound a little bit awkward. There was this rumor, for those that haven't read it, that Vince McMahon is not too keen on his promo, so they actually have him write it. And like on Smackdown, he said suffering succotash. On Raw, he had this just... Ryan and I were watching Raw together, and I don't know how to explain it other than story time with Roman Reigns. Because it's like, what were we witnessing, Ryan?
We were witnessing Roman Reigns try and do this Jack and the Beanstalk deal with the Big Show. And at this point, you got to believe that rumor is true and that Vince is writing these promos, because, or somebody, whoever's writing them is just clueless and has no idea what they're doing, because Reigns, I'm not even going to put this on him, because I don't think there's much you could do with what he was given except for just protesting it outright, because there's just no way that's going to work. That's not what people want to hear from Roman Reigns. They don't want to hear him telling a little story about Jack and the Beanstalk. They just want him to show up and kick people's asses, basically. If he's got to talk, keep it short and sweet, or at least just convey more of a badass attitude than telling a fable or whatever. So I mean, things are so heavily scripted with promos nowadays, from what I hear, and you can't really put this fully on Reigns, because honestly, I think his delivery was not that bad. I think he's getting better on the mic.
Yeah, it was way better.
Yeah, and it is what it is, but they need to just write better for him, and maybe that some of it's on him to step up and say, hey, this is not my character. I shouldn't be doing this. I think maybe he just needs to stand up for his identity more. I've listened to Ambrose's on Jericho's podcast and stuff, and we'll get to him later, but he definitely conveyed that he stands up for his character. And maybe Reigns needs to do that more.
Yeah, because I think the situation with that, absolutely, Roman Reigns has gotten way better on the microphone. At first, he just said two words and they always sounded awkward. This felt like he was trying to be a little bit more cocky, a little bit more badass guy, like, oh yeah, I'm going to kick your ass so hard, I'm going to try and tell a story. But it felt very disconnected. It felt like they wrote that for whatever episode, and then they just told him, yeah, so you're telling a story about Big Show. Because even the audience at first, they were like, yeah, Roman Reigns. At the end, they were kind of like, all right, man, I like you. You know, it's good. You did a good job.
Sometimes you just need to be flat out direct, because both of us were basically saying, what are we listening to right now? What the hell is going on? You know, someone, you know, from the other room with that TV on is going to be like, what the hell is this crap? You know, I think it just needs to be more direct. You don't need to beat around the bush and have story time. People want to see the action. So just say what you feel and don't waste everyone's time with this story time.
And I think we haven't talked about the other side of the coin, which is Big Show, where I've stated multiple times in the podcast, I personally do not care where they put his character. I don't care if he's good, he's bad. You know, he should just team up with Alicia Fox for all we know at this point. But it doesn't help that
Fox
people...
Show.
Wow, that would sadly work, is the sad part. But when we talk about Big Show, people don't hate his character. They're kind of just like, boo, you're the bad guy. But he's not getting like Seth Rollins heat. So then when you put like the story time thing with Roman Reigns, who, you know, just got back a little while ago, it's just like, it doesn't help. Because I think if
Big
it was...
Show was doing it too, basically. He was talking about job security or something. Like,
and it just doesn't work.
I don't want to hear that at a wrestling show.
Yeah, he gets these... I mean, he was broke at one point. You know, he got fired at one point. He's cried. Big Show has been dealt... I mean, he was in a diaper once at the sumo match. I mean, he's very been much dealt like a lot Kane. Of cards. Yeah.
He's very much like Kane. He's endured a lot of crap. Big Show's probably one of those people that should have been booked more like Brock Lesnar or Andre the Giant or something. He just got overexposed, and now it's just, I don't know. It's like a Kane situation. He's just, because he's a big monster type, he's got to do all these terrible stories and change face and heel over and over again.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work. But going back to the Reigns thing, yeah, we got to see how it plays out. It's 2 for 2 right now with the SmackDown promo and this one, so let's hope this trend does not continue. Now, talking about another member of the former Shield, we got Dr. Dean Ambrose, baby, because he needed a psychological evaluation. I almost unleashed my Dusty Rhodes, but I'm choosing not to. And I love these segments. I don't know if it's because Dr. Shelby and all that stuff, but whenever they say psychological evaluation in wrestling, I should hate it for whatever reason, but I don't. I love it. I'm just like, yes, because it's outrageous. He did the Thursday thing right at the beginning. And I think that this right here is where you make the argument that you can be dealt almost any card, but when you know your character, when you know how your character would react to any situation, it just clicks.
Now, I'm not going to praise it as much. I did enjoy it, and like you said, anytime they do, multiple backstage segments that are, it's not just the same interview or whatever, I appreciate that. I think they could have got a better actor. We were talking about for the psychologist.
Yeah. He was
pretty
horrible.
Terrible. He was probably just a local worker or something. Dr. Shelby obviously is going to be a comparison, and he was just a lot better because he's probably, a real actor.
Times are bad. They can't pay him. They can't pay him, man.
And, I did find it funny, but it's still, I don't know. Ambrose, some of it has just felt a little too cartoony and a little too forced sometimes. It's like, I really want to like Ambrose, but then sometimes I feel like it's just a little too hokey. Although it was entertaining, I still feel like it's the family-friendly Dean Ambrose. He doesn't have that fire that he had when he was directly feuding with Rollins. And I feel like some of that's just been lost, and he's kind of turned into a cartoon character. I keep using that word, but that's the best way I can describe it. I think he needs more of that Austin rebel type badassness to him without being the same thing. but it just feels like I don't know, he's not breaking the rules as much as he should be.
I think the sad reality, and at least the logic that I make out of it, is that you have Seth Rollins, who is arguably the top heel in the company, and he's the more realistic character of the three. You have Roman Reigns, who they try to make the badass. You know, I don't talk too much, but when I do, at some point, I have to say ass because I'm badass and I'll punch you in the face. And then there's Ambrose, who sadly, even though he's the most entertaining one to me, a large part of that is because he has a little bit more freedom because he's not in this, you know, overly serious main event storyline. He's in the bottom of the three, realistically, even though he's the most entertaining, he is.
No, definitely. And that's kind of where I kind of brought this topic to the agenda that I wanted to bring to you, was that, you know, has Rollins left Ambrose and Reigns in the dust lately, basically, with his progression?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. It was in June. Let's bring up the obvious comparison. Edge, before he was the rated R superstar, you could tell that the WWE were trying to make him the next guy. You know, they were trying to move him away from the tag division. You know, they had him with Ray in the Smackdown 6 and all that stuff. They had him in these higher quality matches. But to me, he was always like, oh, he's the guy from Edge and Christian. I always related him to the past. I mean, even when he was rated R, I mean, he was with Lita, which obviously brought back those memories, but he always felt like the guy that used to be in that thing. With Rollins, honestly, I feel like the Shield is below him. I feel like the Shield was holding him back. I mean, how many times do we make fun of him with the promos and like he's going to be the lesser one? And after the Shield, it almost feels like, yeah, I can see why they broke him out. Because, I mean, look at him now. He took that ball and not only did what Edge technically did, because there are a lot of similarities, but he's done it way faster. He has done it way faster to the point that he was in a main event closing segment on Raw with Brock Lesnar and looked legit. Like, he didn't look to me as if like, oh, they're really trying to shoehorn Rollins into this. To me, it just felt like he can win the match in the Rumble, and I will buy it.
I actually felt the exact same way, was that amongst those three, like, you know, even Cena at one point was kind of like overshadowed by the interaction between Rollins and Lesnar. I really felt like Rollins belonged. And, you know, this isn't a complete apples to apples comparison with the Shield members here, because let's be honest, Rollins at the same time has kind of been afforded the most opportunity. One, he's trying to get over as a heel, which is a different story than trying to become a top babyface. We all know it is much harder to become a top babyface, although, you know, in its own right, in its own merit, becoming a heel isn't easy either. And then the fact that he's basically got all the help in the world from Triple H propping him up with the authority and everything.
He's got a lot of backup.
Exactly. He's been afforded a lot of opportunity, but he has ran with it, and he's ran very well with it, and that's why he's in the position that he's in. So that does help the fact that he's progressed along a lot further, I feel like, than Ambrose and Reigns. But that being said, I really feel like he is a step above them. He is a class above them right now, and they're trying to step up to get on his level.
Yeah, like if you were to tell me, so after Rumble, after Mania, it's going to be Rollins versus Ambrose, my first thought would be, oh, he's being demoted. And I love Ambrose, and it's realistic. You know, it's a situation of they have actually managed to make another guy rise up to Cena's level in no time. And that's scary, because even when Edge was the rated R superstar, he was booed a lot and all that, but at least for me, I always felt like it was John Cena taking on a heel. Right now, I feel it's John Cena taking on Seth Rollins, who's just up there. So my concern is not necessarily whether he, you know, is like a B+ player, A+ player, whatever. It's don't mess this up. I mean, we talk about them not having another Cena so much. Imagine the day he becomes babyface. Imagine if they just keep doing heel with him. They know they have a guy. Like, he is the guy. Who would have thought, you know? And it just takes just one little mistake. It could be a match with Cena. Realistically, let's face it. I mean, It happened with Wade Barrett in the Nexus. It's happened with multiple other guys. It happened with Christian. When Christian, before he went to TNA, Christian was he was there, man. Just a little bit more, and Christian would have been that guy. Don't do it with Rollins, please.
I mean, he has the perfect opportunity, with the fact that Lesnar is a part-timer and everything, that he can stay in that top heel spot. Because, and let's be honest, he's a great heel. He's not the, oh, hey, like, I'm a heel, but everyone loves me, I'm cool. I love Dolph Ziggler, but Dolph Ziggler was always that kind of heel, where he was the heel that secretly wanted to be liked. I think Seth Rollins does a good job at making himself unlikable. Like, people don't think of him as the cool heel as much, although obviously you can't help but appreciate his work. But I don't think he's trying to secretly be cool or anything like that.
And you do a good job when, first of all, you're good looking. Let's be honest here, man. He's a good looking guy. Is he good looking, Ryan?
Damn right he is.
Oh, yeah. Fanfic Fantasy's coming back, Dean. Okay, so there's that. He does high flying moves, and he doesn't really cheat a lot in his matches. So by definition, he should be liked. If we go by the traditional way Dolph Ziggler got over, all these guys got over, he should be liked. Yet, they boo him. They still do the "you sold out" chants, which are amazing. The fact that they still happen months. This happened in June, okay? June, and we still hear those chants. So awesome to know. Awesome to see Rollins do well. And once again, the Rumble is actually looking like a huge show so far. Just a quick comment about that. Like, are you pumped for the Rumble right now? Just the pay-per-view, not just the match, but the whole pay-per-view.
Absolutely. The Rumble, regardless, I'm always pumped for it, but I'm even more pumped because of this title match and the fact that it isn't completely obvious who's going to win the Rumble this year. Obviously, there's a couple favorites, but it does feel a little more open than previous years. So, I'm always excited for the Rumble, and especially this year.
Definitely, sir. Something I'm also excited for is for this week's...
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Pick of the Week!
So, people, Keith ain't here, so Pick of the Week is back, ladies and gentlemen. This week we are here to recommend Tough Enough, because it's actually up on the network, and we're not talking about the $1 million Tough Enough. We're not talking about Tough Enough with Stone Cold, where we got the infamous Cameron, Alicia Fox match thing. We're talking about the original Tough Enough. Triple H talking, the curtain being pulled. That really good Tough Enough when reality TV was really taking off. WWE did an awesome job of bringing this. And Ryan, I know you haven't watched too much, but you have watched a couple of clips. So as someone that hasn't watched too much, number one, what did you think about things like the Triple H thing? And number two, are you interested in going into the network and checking it out?
Yeah, definitely, because I saw only a couple episodes or part of it. I mean, it was so long ago. I basically haven't watched it since it aired.
Damn.
So I'm a little foggy on things, but I did remember recently watching an episode where Triple H chews out the entire, cast basically about what it's like to be a professional wrestler and what it means. And it's actually an amazing clip. And if you check it out, it's probably going to make you want to watch the rest of the show. And I think I'm definitely going to have to check it out because, I think I remember wanting to watch it at the time, but obviously back then it wasn't easy to just kind of find an episode, after you missed it. So it's much easier now that it's on the network. And, it's kind of cool because it's like stepping back in time and kind of seeing where wrestling was at the time. And, when did that air? Was that the early 2000s?
Yeah, it's like 2001. 2001, I want to say. And the cool thing is that this is the DVD release, which actually has additional footage. So it's a little bit more uncensored and all that stuff. Like that Triple H thing Ryan's talking about, the TV airing was a little short. The DVD version has like the full thing, and you can check that out. So, hey, Tough Enough. You got reality TV. You got Maven with the eyebrows. You got a lot of cool stuff. Do yourself a favor. Check it out. It's on the network for how much, Ryan?
$9.99.
$9.99. So yes, people, do yourself a favor. Check that out. Something you can also check out next week over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. We'll be posting another edition of the Squared Roundtable, where next week we talk about a little bit of a fun subject, which is WWE superstars in video games. What happens if we put our favorite guys like Stone Cold and put him in Metal Gear? Something like that, like stealth action game. What? Stealth action game. I said, what? It was an awesome conversation. It happened here in Puerto Rico. It was hilarious. And yeah, do yourself a favor. Check it out. By the way, something quick. If you do like the podcast, you do know you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. But if you want to go even farther and support us, you can leave a review or rate us on iTunes. It really goes a long way into supporting us. That's awesome. So now, let's get back into wrestling. Now, on Mondays, Ryan, we get Monday Night Raw, right? Hence the word Monday, right?
Yes.
Now, we got this other show that originally started on Thursdays, and yes, that was horrible. But then we got Friday Night SmackDown, and starting this week, SmackDown is going back because it's not just about the Nike shoes in 2015, people. It's about SmackDown going back into Back to the Future reference, Ryan, just in case. I see your face. You're like, what are you talking
normally I'd
about?
pick up on it, but I just zoned out and it went right over my head.
Yeah, I just look at Ryan. It's like, I got to clarify that just in case. But yeah, SmackDown is going back to Thursdays. Personally, I think it's really cool. Am I going to watch SmackDown? Honestly, probably not. And it's not even because of SmackDown's fault, because I know we talk about that not a lot of things happen on SmackDown, but I do think they are. For me personally, it's 3-hour Raw. You lower Raw to 2 hours, and I will gladly check SmackDown. Ryan, reaction to Thursdays, and then the other thing I just brought up.
Well, I guess I'm going to sound a little redundant because I feel exactly the same way. I just think the 3-hour Raw just creates burnout, and it's very hard to want to commit any more time than that. And I'm going to sound like a huge hypocrite because for the longest time, for so many years, I'm like, oh, if SmackDown was just not on Fridays, maybe I would actually care to watch it sometimes. But the truth is by the end of Raw, I'm just kind of exhausted from, WWE for a week. It's easier to get into something like NXT where it's just completely, all different people, a whole different roster. But SmackDown, especially since we've been trained to believe that nothing important happens, and if it does, you know about it on Raw or it's redone on Raw. So they have to kind of commit to making SmackDowns on Thursdays a can't-miss show, which that will remain to be seen. But you know what? Regardless, being on Thursdays is much better, and it's probably going to boost their ratings a little bit, once everyone adjusts to the time slot, because people have things to do on Fridays usually. So this should give them a nice little bump.
Yeah, definitely. And for those listening, I legitimately want to know, if you don't watch SmackDown right now, will this change make you watch it? So send us a tweet at ByteThatCast. If you listen on YouTube, leave a comment. Because it does seem like it's a really good decision. I'm really interested in the ratings and all that stuff, if it's going to become a bigger focus. There was even a report that they're planning or contemplating having like a soft brand split, so not doing it officially, but basically, having a little bit more fun with SmackDown now that it's apparently relevant. And
the commentary team, is Byron Saxton going to be on it?
Yeah, it's Byron Saxton, Michael Cole, and I want to say
Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, Jerry Lawler. Yeah. So now we got that switch, which we haven't actually had an opportunity to really talk about that. So just a couple minutes. What do you think about the team of Cole, JBL, and Booker T?
I think it was a much needed shakeup. It's still not perfect, but I think it is better. It is much better. Booker T definitely kind of makes things a little more interesting. I just think that team that they had was just so stagnant and so just I was so done with it. So any change is good. They could have put in anybody. I love Booker T.
Yeah.
But literally they could have put in anybody and I would have been happy.
Booker, you're doing a good job, but they could have put anybody. They could have put in Stevie Ray and it would have been better still. So
So I'm happy with it. The commentary, though, it's not necessarily who's there. Sometimes it's what, how they're being produced. But like I said, any change is good right now. So, yay.
Anything. We'll take anything, people. It's not whether it's good or bad. It's about change. Anything is good. So, there's that. Personally, just for me, quick tidbit, Booker T, I'm cool with JBL. I'm honestly just, he's getting really obnoxious. Like, really, really obnoxious. And it's getting annoying to the point where...
What happened to him? He
I don't know.
used to be, like, the IWC's god. Like, everybody loved him on commentary, but something happened.
It doesn't feel like he's part of the commentary team. It feels like it's Michael Cole, Booker T, or Jerry Lawler at the moment, at the time, and then just JBL, who's sitting in that table and just splurs out stuff, like when the Ascension's there, and he's just burning them.
I was going to bring up the Ascension.
I'm like, holy crap.
He must have some sort of, like, Miz heat with the Ascension, like, because he's acting like the way he did with remember when the Miz first started and JBL buried the hell out of him? Like, even though Miz was a heel and he was a heel, he would just bury the hell out of him. So I wonder if he has some sort of personal issues with the Ascension, because I know we touched on it last week, and I guess he kind of did it a little bit more this week. They keep kind of minimalizing their matches,
talent,
against jobbers, where it's like, you know, they're just there to show their moveset against jobbers. And I mean, they were all impressed with Ryback against all the jobbers. Why you gotta hurt this new team before they, you know, can even get off the ground?
Exactly. And just a quick note about the finisher. I'm really glad that they changed the fall of man. If you notice now, they don't go to opposite corners. They're way more quicker about it. It's more almost like ECW-esque, because I guess it just didn't look as impactful. So maybe that's where it plays well. But instead of celebrating, because it looked way more devastating, we just heard JBL be like, oh, face Goldust, Stardust, and face all those people. So that really just kind of sucks. So now moving on to positive things. There's been this team, because we keep delaying. We've been wanting to talk about Tyson Kidd in the podcast for like 2 months now. He's always on the agenda.
That.
Yeah, he's always on the agenda. And throughout the show, he gets cut. I mean, Matt Damon territory. That's what's going on right now. And yeah, we got to bring up that he is in a tag team with Cesaro. First of all, cats, kittens, oven mitts. I don't know why. I love Tyson Kidd, man. I think the whole NXT thing rejuvenated him. He's been amazing to the point where you can tell when a guy progresses when he starts doing less and it means more. Like even on Raw, he was pretty much just ringside smiling, but you could just feel the energy. You could feel the charisma that just did not exist. So what do you think about this tag team? Do you see potential, and why does WWE hate Cesaro?
I think he hates Cesaro. WWE hates Cesaro because he doesn't connect, you know? But I like this tag team. And like you said, I mean, Tyson Kidd has come a long way from just having sort of no character. And I remember when he first started in NXT, or he was on WWE, or
he was on
something.
ECW originally. Like,
well, no, I mean, when he first came back from the injury and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Or he might have had some sort of one-off appearance on Raw, and he was on the mic, and he was just awful. And then he goes down, so just before he went to NXT, or right when he started. But anyway, in that a few months that he was on NXT, I mean, he came so far along, developed this character, got way better on the mic. Now he's on Raw, and like you said, you know, his character is very apparent. It's there. And he works well with Cesaro. I think they're a good team. They're sort of just like the pride of the IWC, you know? Like I know, someone on Twitter that sent them t-shirt designs, and then they wore it on Smackdown. On
multiple shows, main event, Smackdown, all that stuff.
So, I mean, it's really cool. It's kind of a shame that they're not really, a force in the tag, like they're not getting wins in, but, it's still a cool team, and I hope that, they stick with it for a while and kind of turn it into something. But for now, they're just kind of jobbing to a New Day. But it could be more. But it has a lot of potential.
Don't even, just New Day is just that one thing anybody brings up and I just get really sad. But with the Cesaro Kid thing, they're having a lot of fun because, number one, if you look at their Vine stuff and all that, they're trying out like different moves, like Cesaro. They're doing the power bomb, which is basically his Ricola bomb from Ring of Honor. Into blockbuster neckbreaker combo. You know, Tyson Kidd has the cat shirts. And one thing I really appreciate, Cesaro is very much going back to his roots. You even brought up yesterday, he's back to like the Swiss tights and all that stuff. So they're just sort of like letting them go out there. And guess what? When you do that, good things happen.
What theme did they come out to?
Honestly, I do not remember now.
Did they get a jobber entrance?
I think they did, because I was watching and I do not remember hearing a theme. I know they've been coming out to Cesaro's for something.
Acknowledges that his theme is crap. So can he either go back to that Swiss song or just have a new theme? Because that one is just god awful.
Or just blend both, like Swiss sirens.
Oh my god! Oh my god! If they do a mashup of the Tyson Kidd theme in that one,
has somebody done a mashup of that? Please tweet us.
Oh
I
my
would
god.
so love/hate to hear that. Seriously.
But I mean, this is like start over number what for Cesaro at this point?
Man.
You know what I mean?
Rugby player with a sauna. Paul Heyman guy, the future
yodeling,
yodeling.
Real Americans.
Wow.
Whatever happened to the whole Andre the Giant Battle Royal? Are they going to do that again, or are they just embarrassed about how Cesaro's year turned out because of it?
I mean, how did they go back? Look at last year's winner, Cesaro, and everything he accomplished. Okay, we're changing the name. It's the Macho Man.
Cesaro's year has basically been an identity crisis, and maybe this will finally be his thing.
Hopefully, 2015. Just please. I mean, I talked about Seth Rollins. It seems like I'm just begging for things, and I am. So, yes, please. Cesaro, let him be himself. And one thing I forgot to bring up, Ryan, I went to a little bit of a wrestling show that was at Madison Square Garden during my honeymoon. Did you know that?
Oh, man. How was it?
It was crazy, man. So, WWE had a live event, and oddly enough, the best thing about the show was this little kid that had to be 7 to 8 year old sitting in front of us, because it was me, my wife, Jamie, and his aunt. And dude, we interviewed the crap out of this kid for like 2 hours. It was amazing. I mean, I brought this up in the podcast.
Does that count as child abuse?
I won't even go there. But I've always brought up in the podcast, like, I would love to just, what does a kid, like, we know kayfabe is there. What happens when a kid is just, like, legit, And, dude, okay, first of all, this kid knows everything about NXT. He was talking Fatal 4-Way, Tyler Breeze getting over, and this kid believes, I mean, kayfabe-wise. So it's like, he's talking about getting over, but wrestling is 100%.
Wait, he used the term getting over?
Yes. I don't know.
But he still believes in kayfabe?
Because, like, you could tell the way he was talking, the whole match. It's like, why is Kane doing that? Kane always does that, and he always loses. And then, like, with the Cena combo, he's just like, oh, he's going to do the clothesline. Watch. He's going to do another one that he's going to try to get it. Dude, I was laughing so hard.
He's very close to figuring it out.
Yeah.
He's noticing the patterns.
Dude, like, his mom was pretty much apologizing to us. I told her straight up, he is the most entertaining thing about this show. I mean, just seeing kids live that experience. Don't you wish you could feel like that with wrestling? Just like that excitement, like you mark out for a clothesline for whatever it is.
WWE Madison Square Garden was outdone by a 7-year-old. You heard it here first.
That's an interesting way to put it. The other thing I wanted to bring up, which was very sad, dude. This isn't too surprising, but the only guy that people stood up for, you guess who was it, Ryan?
It was definitely Adam Rose.
Eric Rowan, dude. Close enough.
Eric Rowan.
No, dude.
That was actually, I should have said that. That was a better answer.
I felt kind of scared in a way that, I mean, Dolph Ziggler came out and people were like, yeah, cool, Ziggler. Like, Randy Orton came out, he faced Kane, and you're thinking, like, Randy Orton, this is technically his return match. And people are like, cool, Randy's there. They pop for him, cool, done. Dude, when John Cena came out in MSG, I just look like, okay, have these people, like, been on their phones the entire show and now they care about this? Like, they got up. Like, dude, I just, when Cena came out, I just looked at the crowd. And I'm just like, me as a fan, I get scared. And if I was WWE, I'd be crapping myself. Because people waited essentially 3 hours to give a damn about $100 ticket. $100 plus whatever ticket. And I just felt like I needed to bring that up. Because it was very scary to see that. Because we always talk about these reports and all that. But this is New York during Christmas. This is the 26th. We're talking like post, the day after Christmas. New York is a smarky crowd. There's people traveling all over the world. It was a John Cena show featuring WWE superstars. And it sucked. I mean, it's really sad to see that.
My only take on that is that I think there is, so just so you don't lose total hope, is that there is a slight difference, I think, between a house show crowd and a Raw crowd and a pay-per-view crowd. I feel like a lot of the families and stuff will go to house shows. Generally, the tickets are cheaper and things like that. So usually Cena's the guy at a house show. I think I went to a house show about a year ago, and I mean, people really pop for CM Punk. I don't even remember if Cena was on the show or not. But yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you kind of just position one guy as the guy. And CM Punk was like the only other guy who was he was the other guy people paid to see.
Breathe, Ryan.
And I'm losing my voice.
You're so excited about this.
I was getting choked up because,
CM Punk, man.
CM Punk's a sensitive subject,
CM
I guess.
Punk is
But
gone.
yeah, I mean, besides Cena at that time, Punk was like the only other guy that people like legit sold tickets. So now it's kind of just back to Cena where they've been for quite a while. So that doesn't surprise me. But like I said, house show crowds can sometimes be different. Although this surprises me because I figured WWE MSG would be like it's supposed to be like the biggest house show of the year. So you'd expect more hardcore fans to be there. Not that you can't be both a hardcore fan and a John Cena fan, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, and one thing that really made me sad, they had Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville live. I mean, dude, that was the match I marked out for. I mean,
did Mighty Mouse come out?
No,
or was it
dude,
regular
really
Adrian Neville?
When because they basically messed up. They were testing out the Trons, and I saw Sami Zayn's mini Tron, so that's how I knew they were gonna have that match. So I'm thinking, oof, is this where they're gonna debut Mighty Mouse? I mean, podcast talk. I was gonna pull out the phone and just start talking there or something, but when we our row actually marked out, but then it was preceded by what's that championship? It's not a WWE championship. And that's, when the reality hits you that, not everybody really watches NXT. So, our entire row proceeded to explain what NXT is. It's on the network. We started, an NXT chant. And a couple of people bought in. And the most surprising part is by the end of the match, people were, so into it because they were practically killing themselves. It was a traditional Neville Zayn match. So, if you like them in NXT, it's awesome to see them live. And, hopefully more people watch NXT. So before we closed out the show, this guy, Roach, I feel like I owe you an apology, man, because Roach McPoach is from New York, and we almost met. I got horribly sick with my wife for 2 days. We barely left the hotel room because we were sick. Ryan, just in case, because we were sick. That's my...
What happened? Food poisoning or...
really just sinus. I mean, we went from 80-degree weather to 20-something. So, I mean, at some point, that's going to mess you up. So, we were pretty bad. And
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that. So, basically, Roach, sorry I couldn't meet you, buddy, but you are still the honorary fourth member, and we love you, and you bring this up. At Byte That Cast, Brian, Reigns, Ambrose, Ziggler, ETC. How would you guys book the Rumble to WrestleMania? Glad to have the band back together, which it's not back together this episode. But
yes,
yeah.
If that was false advertisement on my part, maybe next week, maybe.
You bastard, Ryan! How dare you?
But yeah, actually, the fact that I promised it is going to jinx us. But I'm always here, and that's what matters.
Anyway, regarding the question. So we got Brian, Reigns, Ambrose, Ziggler. How would you book the Rumble to WrestleMania? Let's go first with Ziggler. Let's have a little fun with the guy that's technically not employed. Huh? Fired? How would you book him?
Step one, employ him.
Yeah, that's a good one, though. It's a really good one.
Yes. All right. Ziggler. Whew. That's a tough one. All right. So... obviously, somehow he comes back for the Rumble. I think... who's IC champ right now?
Well, Wade Barrett is defending against Sin
that's
Cara
right.
on
Wade
Smackdown.
Barrett. Okay, Wade Barrett. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I can't believe I already forgot that.
Bad
and it
news. I
happened last
apologize.
week.
Bad news, Barrett.
I guess I would do have him come back for the Rumble match, and he doesn't win, obviously. Then you have him kind of rematch with, he gets his rightful rematch against Wade Barrett, and then somehow get Luke Harper maybe involved in there and kind of build towards a triple threat at Mania, maybe where you have Harper versus Barrett versus Ziggler, which I think would be a good match. And they're all kind of in that IC title area. There's really just not enough room to elevate him to the world title quite yet. So I'd keep him in that IC mix.
Yeah, I think that top spot there's no way. I mean, people were saying like he could be the dark horse to win the Rumble. I think there's like 5% chance of that happening. So I think he's going to be in the Rumble. He's going to do very well, maybe even a Final Four. But because the Shield guys are involved, I mean, there's a lot of people. You got D-Bry. I think he's going to be maybe like Final 6 or something like that. And then we're going to see him feud again with Luke Harper. I really like that combination. So personally, just somehow get the championship back to either Harper or Ziggler and have them go at it at Mania. There's really
So you're just going to steal my idea, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I just said it differently.
All right.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm cool with that.
Hashtag synonyms, man. So here's a
I
challenge.
mean, I don't know. I'm not even going to just...
Yeah, let's just keep going. Yeah, so we got Ambrose. This is a tough one. I think this is the hardest one because step one, Wyatt, is he a thing with this? Like, is he in this in your picture from Rumble to Mania? Do you see this continuing somehow? They bring it back?
I don't want it to. So how would I... I think they're both great, but I think the feud was just not what we wanted it to be, and it's time to move on. What would I do with Dean Ambrose? Oh my god. Who is there to feud with? Oh, well, I guess, you know what? I would actually revisit Ambrose and Rollins. We never got the definitive ending. Something happens with them at the Rumble or Fastlane, starring Vin Diesel or something like that. You revisit it. I think you gotta do, they already did Hell in a Cell. What else can you do? What could be some stipulation match at WrestleMania? I'd like to see Ambrose and Rollins. Maybe even just putting Money in the Bank on the line. I don't really like that, but something major. I can't think of like a stipulation that would be bigger than Hell in a Cell, but something Buried Alive. Does that work? I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I would actually just turn him heel. I'd be like, why not? And not just because, hey, whatever, turn him heel. The way I see it is, you have Rollins as a top heel. They're working Roman Reigns all the way up. Realistically, I don't think they're going to do that with Ambrose. And I think that Ambrose would benefit like Rollins, which is turn him heel, so when he turns face, people will just go all crazy. And
because the best, sorry to interrupt, but the best Ambrose is going to get is be number 3.
Exactly. It might as well be a really good number 2 heel. Because what happens once Brock leaves? I mean, they could do so many things. They can pair Ambrose with Heyman. They can go all the psychotic route with Ambrose. I mean, and he could still sell the shirts and all that. It's like when Randy Orton was heel. I mean, people love the crazy, psychotic heel character.
Who would you put him up against at Mania?
For Mania, I don't know. I think he should be self-aware that he's number 3. I think his character should be like, after the Shield, I thought I was going to be like facing John Cena at WrestleMania. Yet here I am, talking to like psychologists, getting myself checked up and all that. So I think it'd be like, screw it. I would even go as far as to not put him in Mania and then just have him like interfere like a big caliber match. And that's how you turn him heel. Like have him maybe like start off a thing at Mania where he takes out Ziggler. You get Ziggler Ambrose. I think that would be an awesome feud. So something like that is what I would definitely go for. Now we got Roman Reigns. I don't know where to go with this, honestly, because it seems like he's either going to be at the top of the food chain or they are just going to backpedal and he's going to be completely forgotten in a year. I mean, I do think both scenarios are legit.
What I would do with Reigns is I would not have him win the Rumble, obviously. I think I would either put him against Cena or Rusev. And Cena it wouldn't be don't turn him heel or anything. You just have a respect match or something. Maybe that's not the place for WrestleMania, so maybe it's better to go with Rusev. But I also think Cena versus... no. I would rather have Reigns versus Rusev.
Yes.
If Rusev's going to lose, I would rather Reigns be the one to beat him. So I think that actually is a good way to elevate Reigns without, having him win the title. So Reigns Rusev would be my way to go.
For me, I would actually bring back Randy. The problem is Randy's going to come back as a babyface because of all the things that have happened. And
they've already feuded.
Yeah, but I would actually revisit that because I think something clicked there. And I think Roman Reigns would benefit from a quieter character like Randy and all that stuff because he's more in your face. He needs that because I don't think that a big guy helps and I don't think a small guy helps. I think Reigns needs somebody that's just about his size and just about his caliber in terms he's getting over, people like them and all that. So I would do either face Randy Reigns or come back. Randy's like, yeah, you think you're gonna take the top spot here? Nuh-uh. And then we get that match. So that would be for me. Now, last and certainly not least is the most dangerous one of the bunch. It was Dana Bryan's year last year, and it looks like it's gonna be it this year. Or is it, Mr. McNulty?
I think it should be. It doesn't necessarily mean it will be, but I would have Bryan win the Rumble, that he actually gets to be in it this year, and I would do Brock versus Bryan at the WrestleMania. The WrestleMania. That's a match that I know Daniel Bryan wants more than any other match right now. I think they would just absolutely tear the house down, and it doesn't even matter who wins to me. I think I just want to see that match.
I ditto your comment completely. If the scenario is he wins Rumble to face Lesnar, assuming Lesnar wins, there is no better match for Mania. If you want to top the expectation of Undertaker losing or winning a match at Mania before he was actually defeated, this is how you top that. I mean, this is how you top. What do you do with Lesnar when he defeated the Streak? You got to put him over with this guy. However, my concern is Brock Lesnar's a stiff guy in the ring. I mean, we've seen, when Punk faced him, he had multiple injuries. He was very injured. Taker has still yet to recover from even recent podcasts with Jericho and all that stuff. But at the same time, we've heard that these guys sort of ask for that realism.
He's recovering from a podcast?
Wow, man, that interview. No, you get what I mean. Jericho talked about Taker.
Wait, did Jericho? Oh, he did update that he's still recovering?
Yeah, it was Jericho or Stone Cold. I forget which one of the two, but basically they made reference that, they saw him recently, and you could tell he was still hurting a little bit, so I don't know if they want to take that risk with Bryan, because the only way I would love to see that match.
He's not nearly in the shape that that Taker's in, and that was just a bad bump. Who is it? It must have been Jericho who was talking about Lesnar. I don't know. Somebody who I was listening to on a podcast basically said that Lesnar is actually really good to work with, and even though it seems like is reckless, he's actually not.
And I'm not even saying
I'm pretty
he's
sure
reckless,
Jericho
though.
said that.
But it's like the matter of, it's a very physical match. D-Bry was out for 8 months, and WWE built him up for that time before. So as a company, would they take that risk? I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, though, that his neck has been fine for a while. It was actually just a nerve in his arm or something that was the issue that kept him out. So his neck has, had plenty of time to recover. So, I don't know. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I think he'll be okay.
Says the guy that predicted pregnancy. But thank you, Mr. Roach McPoach, for the
again,
question,
Mets
man. We love you. Hope to see you in the future, Mr. McNulty. The floor is